live to fight another day.
Ooh, wow. Wait. Hold on. I want to be the very best. Oh, man. Look. The Hornets pulled that out of the you know what to get that victory. I'm not even gonna lie to you. So I was like, look, I want to say with 28 seconds left, I went ahead and I was like, they were down, I believe like 5. I went ahead. I was like, man, dang, they gonna lose. Guess it was a good run. Cause up until that point, I was like, come on, y'all got this. And then the lead started going away. The lead started getting too high, and I was like, yeah, it was still close, but with 28 seconds left, I was like, I know anything can happen, as it did, but most of the time, you just kind of like, yeah. And so like I went out, cool, look at my phone. I'm like, oh man. So of course, I gotta come back and watch the game. It was ridiculous. So look, let's just go with the whole thing of the Hornets did not play at all their best game. Like pretty much outside Moose getting the offensive rebounds, nobody really played their level of game. But I was like that whole turnaround with the being like playing defense and all that other stuff kept them in the game pretty much. And to be honest, the game was really back and forth. It was really like who got the run at the end of the like that's really what it was. It felt like like in the NFL of like who like when you got two really top notch quarterbacks and it's like who has the ball last is sort of how we feel like this game is going in. This is sort of what this felt like of like who was going to go on a run enough to at the right time and just be able to cement this game. Cause nobody was playing good. It started out hot, and it was just, where it was just like offense, then it just got into like a defensive battle. The whole thing with Bam happened, and I was like, I was like, you don't even really notice it at first until they start playing the replays, and at first it just looked like it just sort of looked like mellow, and you just like on the ground and you like moving and you happen to do it. I was like he did swipe at his leg. I don't think he meant to like do it deliberately and like pull him down because I was like Bam did fall hard. And to be honest, a lot of times you do see a lot of dudes come up off of that, off of that type of play. Although it sort of made me think of like Jimmy Butler last year with Golden State, where it was just like he just fell wrong and that was just sort of it. Like I feel like I'll say like if the Heat would have advanced, I think Bam would have probably came back and played. But to be honest, I actually, in a weird way, I actually think that would help unlock Miami. Cause up to that point, Miami couldn't really hit a shot either. But the thing is, Bam could get all like he was just taking moves down to the block, and he was just getting like jump hook after jump hook. I was like he was really what was keeping them going for a while. And I was like, if they didn't give the ball to Bam, they got pretty much a poor shot. So I think that if you would have just let Bam just be ISO score, I think that would have actually probably sort of went into the Heat's to the Hornets' favor. I will say that Bam not being there did hurt hurt Miami on the boards, even though they like at times they would wear and stuff like that when he was killing us. He was the biggest dude on the court, but I was like, but at the same time, they would be able to play both of them at the same time, and that sort of would have got us into a little situation. Brandon Miller kept getting in foul trouble, and I think and I was like, don't get me wrong, I was like top scorer. I was like he get his own shot, but he still sometimes is streaky where he just sort of get high and whatnot. And to be honest, Kobe White, I felt like was the guy that kept us afloat for the most part. He also wasn't shooting the ball well, and then he got hot, and then he got hot once again. So Kobe White, I think, really held afloat, especially during the time when I was like the Heat sort of was also starting to like get going where Jaquez and Wiggins, and then Mitchell was going off. Like I said, I think if Bam stayed in the game, I don't think it would have been no blowout, nothing like that. I think it would still been a close game. I just don't know those other guys would have been able to eat the way they do because Bam going down, guess what? Your star player goes down. It makes everybody else like, okay, everybody got to step up, but it also lets you play a little bit more free because you're just like, all right, I'm gonna take this open shot instead of going through our star to get to try to find the best way to get a look or whatever. I was like also Mitchell being on Melo, which I was like not only was giving Melo fits defensively, but also guess what? You also made LaMelo having to play on the other end. And I was like, LaMelo never had the rep of being a defensive player. I was like, I think he had gotten better and been able to play in and talk and like it's like the subtle things where you're pointing, you're talking, all that other stuff. But I was like Mitchell was giving him the business. I am surprised Ware didn't play like a ton, especially during like a little the later portions of the games. I was like Tyler Hero. I was like coming in. I was like, hey, he was over here hitting a couple shots, but I'm like, that's what he's supposed to. I was like, it was. I was like, but I really want to say, Knipple was not like, yeah, he was able to figure out a little bit of like his shot wasn't falling, and so he was still like able to do some stuff and play it. I was like and play within the game, but he just wasn't there. And I was like, to be honest, if they're not hitting their threes, I was like, it is more difficult for them. But what I like is the fact that they kept on at it. They was like still going. They were still going to the basket. They was still sort of like they were still moving the ball around. It didn't really get like it didn't get stagnant, which I feel like would have happened, like like with this team, like especially like early in the year or in previous years or something like that. Cause they still a young team. I was like Bridges. I was like, this is sometimes why I've had like discussion with people online where people are kind of like Bridges and like want to make it too much and doing we don't really need it. I was like his numbers ain't necessarily great. I was like, does he really help the team with when you see like plus minuses and things like that? I've seen people reference. I was like that stuff. I was like, you would throw them at me, but I was like, I like to watch the game because sometimes stuff like how it's like, oh man, Brandon Miller's not doing right. I was like doing it right now. Knipple not doing it right. Like even they said on the thing where it's like LaMelo and Bridges are the only two dudes that got any type of playoff experience. That does matter. I was like Bridges being there for so long, being kind of the glue guy and stuff like that. I was like the thing that gets me is just like it's like I've seen people like he's not a great defensive player. I'm like, yeah, but he's picking up he'll pick up the main guy, which guess what? That means that nobody else does. So that means that he's willing to do the dirty work. He's willing to try to get like rebound. He's willing to play defense and pick up the guy, even if you don't think like he's a defensive stopper. But guess what that means? That means that Brandon Miller doesn't have to, especially has to get in foul trouble. That means Knipple doesn't have to have that assignment. In this case, with like this sort of team, that I think, like for instance, if Bam would have been able to play more, Bridges probably would have picked up Bam along with Grant Williams because they're a lot stockier than Moose is, and they can move laterally with him than Ryan can. So I was like, I think, and like you've seen Bridges, I was like he hit his threes well enough. I was like, you've seen his block at the end of the game where he just jumped like crazy. I was like going to the back, like he was able to also help keep the team going while until like the stars was like ready to play. Like Brandon Miller, I was like he did start coming more alive a little bit more in the second half as he stayed out of foul trouble. I was like still a little bit streaky, but it still worked. LaMelo was able to put his head down and he's like, yo, my shot ain't falling, I'm going to the basket. And I don't know if you would have seen that in previous years with LaMelo. Like LaMelo went to the basket a couple times to dunk where I was like, oh, I know if he still was like willing to do that while there's still a lot of people around. Fast break, yeah, sure. But actual like people around. And look, Kobe White came up clutch with the three. I was like LaMelo came up clutch. I think with like I was like 4 points towards the very end of the overtime. Um, this game was kind of really the Heat's game to lose. I feel like because they had the momentum in that, especially in that late in the second. I mean, half fourth quarter. I was like, yes, the Hornets went on a run and the Heat went on a run, but I was like after Charlotte went on like a 10-0 run, I was like Miami then went back on like an 8-0 run. And like I said, when it was 28 seconds left, and the way that Miami was churning, I was like, dang, they gave it a good run. But guess what? They were able to pull it out, despite whatever you got to say about the whole Bam thing. I was like, I'm not gonna say it doesn't have any impact. He's their best player. I was like, defensively, offensively, he's their best player. But I do think that while we could have seen a game where it's like Bam goes for like 35 and something crazy, but you might not have got Wiggins going like 27. You might not have had Mitchell going for 24. You know what I'm saying? So I actually think, and I like Mitchell, who had played good in the playoffs, like he did like last year and stuff like that. He's shown that he's able to do it, but I think that would have just stagnated the offense a little bit more than what this game has. I was like Hackers. I was like he started getting it going too. But at least I was like him. He got the free range to sort of, that's sort of his game. But anyway, the Hornets they survived one more. It still is. This is why I wish they was in the 7-8 play-in instead of the 9-10 one, because you got to go through all this over again. See who they're gonna play between Philly and Orlando. I think if it's Philly, I think that'll be a tough game. The Magic, I was like I don't know, but I think the Hornets should be able to get that. And I was like the Magic sort of struggles. They got a lot of offensive players, but they struggle to find offense sometimes. But yeah. So really, to be honest, at this point, we don't even have to really worry about necessarily they play Philly or Orlando. It's really gonna be, because I was like, hey, if they lose, they're home. But they win, they play the Pistons, and that's probably I was like, a few teams. I was like, can they beat the Pistons? Yeah, they can beat the Pistons. But somebody gonna have to keep everybody's tempers down, because I was like, the Hornets and Pistons, they be knucking and bucking. And that's going to be an exciting series. I was like, regardless. But anyway, I was like, Buzz City, get the buzz for one more day. I was like, hey, if there was anything to sum up how their whole season has been, it's a game like this. Where it's like the thrills was high and then you felt like really low. And then it got pulled all the way back up to the top. And now you got to do this all over again. So anyway, let's go. I was like hoping one more game. We'll see how it all goes. LaMelo Ball. I was like, despite not shooting well, balled out. And y'all seen the little chain he had on. So anyway, till next game. Peace. The play-in, playoffs, they here.